Sparking Change with Gigi, a show that aims to make the world a better place by bringing together authentic minds. This show encourages each of us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Get ready to be inspired and join us on this journey to create a brighter future for all.
Hello everyone and welcome to Sparking Change with Gigi. Today I'm excited to bring to you a special episode on mastering the art of self-discipline. And my two guests today will share with us all their learnings and expertise on how we really master cultivating habits of self-discipline. So I'd like to welcome you, Phil Conway and Dr. Crystal Vance. Hello, guys. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
Good. I have a mouthful of things to say, so I welcome you guys. Thank you for coming to the show, and I wanted to really bring out to help people understand how important it is to be self-disciplined in order to achieve our goals, right? We have to build new habits to help us really just get what we want out of life and be the best version of ourselves. I know the quote by Napoleon Hill, and I'll share it, bring it up. I love this because we know that everything, self-discipline begins with mastery of your thoughts. If you do not control what you think, you can't control what you do. And that is a fact, right, Phil?
Huge, absolutely huge, yes.
Yeah, please share with us. We both learned from the Napoleon Hill Institute, and learning what Napoleon Hill has brought to us and his teachings are truly life-changing because it changes who we are when we start learning how to think a certain way and behave a certain way. So please share your thoughts.
Yeah, I just really love this concept. It's something that, it's funny, when they say the student is ready, the teacher emerges, and how this is such an important lesson for me to learn is to be disciplined. And I had been a business partner with Bob Proctor for 5 years, and behind Bob was Napoleon Hill's principles. And Bob would always say, discipline is it's not about punishment, it's about giving yourself a command and do it. It's simple, not easy. And the power to control our thoughts is an enormous gift, and we all have it.
That's right. And Dr. Crystal, I know you, in your field, you must be very disciplined in order to really help your patients and help them to be disciplined. So what advice can you give when we talk about self-discipline and mastering your thoughts?
Well, our thoughts are our seeds to everything.
Yeah.
Right? Our thoughts are, from a seed comes fruit, and what we're always after is the fruit. And we're surprised. It's like, well, I thought I planted an apple and I got a banana. How did this happen? And it's like, what were your thoughts between, right?
Thoughts become things. That's what we learned. Thoughts become things.
Every single thing that was created, every single thing invented was first a thought.
That's right. In the mind.
From mind to paper.
That's right. From mind to form. So. I definitely feel that with discipline, we must have a definite purpose, right? A purpose of what is our goal in order to really achieve the goal. We must have a goal in order to apply self-discipline to that goal. Napoleon Hill talks about, and I'm going to the next one. He says, he makes it clear that without a goal, which essentially a goal is our GPS, right? A map of where we want to be. It's hard for us to stay focused. So, yeah, Phil, tell us more. I mean, I know that, we definitely all, we have goals,
Hmm.
but it's so hard to keep them. We begin the new year with new goals, and then by like 2 months later, we lose that momentum.
Yeah, that's so powerful because many of the people really did not. It's not a goal as we would be aware of a goal. It's really a wish or a hope, and people are living in. I hope it happens, and hope is not a strategy. The idea of, and we're not going to be ready to receive it until we believe in it. And what is it that's going to believe? We need to have that desire, that spark, that magnificent obsession with something that is moving us forward to what we want. And goals have a purpose. Goals' purpose is so we can grow because we've got infinite levels of potential inside of us. And I always like to call the definiteness of purpose that container, that ship that moves us. If we're looking at an ocean horizon, well, with
Yes,
desire, we have to have that burning desire and burn that ship. That's the one we burn. But the ship that we have with the definiteness of purpose, that takes us to where we want to go. And we have to have clarity because clarity is power. And when we have
absolutely.
that I love doing a calling exercise when I work with clients where we can figure out what is the clarity by understanding how would they like to see people be. And when they can get their calling, they can align with the definiteness of purpose and they know they're aligned. And that's so powerful to have the discipline to be aligned with who we are
Oh,
and
yeah.
do actions every day.
And absolutely, and staying focused to that end result of
Hmm.
who you're becoming, who you are going to be, is essential for this having self-discipline, right? It's like always staying focused at the end result versus the little action steps that you have to take, because when you do take these little action steps, you may come across defeat and challenges and obstacles, but always knowing where your end results will be is what drives the discipline
Hmm.
in our life. And yeah, what do you think, Dr. Crystal? Oh, I lost you. You're muted.
Here we are.
Yeah.
A lot of times when I'm sitting with someone, and the number one thing is, as a mentor, as a coach, as right, a provider, when I'm sitting with someone, is to say, what do you want? And that what do you want is really like, what's the first goal that we want to set? It'd be like starting a vacation and someone saying, well, where do you want to go on vacation? And you wouldn't think that's odd. You'd be like, well, I want to go to Orlando, Florida. Okay, great. How are we going to get there? And so, like, it makes sense to us when we have it in the smaller things, but when we start looking at the bigger scope,
Yeah,
like our future or what we desire down the road, I don't know if it's the intimidation of, or the self-belief that you could actually get
yeah,
there. And what you just said there is so true, because I mean, that's our goal, is to get there. But the journey is actually what's the most important part to the goal. That's where we change and become and do the things
absolutely.
necessary to arrive at the goal. So it really shouldn't be the goal that intimidates us as much as the preparation to start out on the journey to the goal. So
Well, those obstacles are what, we call fear, worry, doubt. The fact that you've never done it before is really what makes you become the person that you're supposed to become, right? And have the strength. But again, having the discipline and knowing that you are growing in the process, right? And just staying, with a positive mental attitude is what um, Napoleon Hill says, is having that positive, no matter what's going on in front of you, you know that if you can overcome these obstacles and apply faith and apply perseverance and strength to this ultimate goal, it, you know, the end result is very rewarding, right? And you get defeated, but the defeat is just telling you you're going in the right direction if you keep going, right? It's testing your faith, basically, if you're being defeated. So let's just, you know, touch on that, because I think having applied faith and persevere when you're building in a new habit, because let's face it, habits are in your subconscious mind, right? There are programs that are installed in you at a very young age, and to change those habits, which again comes down to what you just said, Dr. Crystal, is about the beliefs. It's our belief system that we need to tap into and transform the limiting beliefs into beliefs that empower you to go forward to achieve your goal, right?
Yeah, you know, a clear definition. That's something I can talk on personal experience. That's how I started a Circle of Health, and all of the different things that I do was because someone asked me to define who I was as a person. And when I sat down and I started, I recommend that for anyone. Like, take out a piece of paper and write down how you see yourself. What are your characteristics? What are your traits? And I wrote out this beautiful list of all of the things that I was. And then I handed it over to her, and she pushed it back at me, and she said, "Now tell me the things that your habits lead to that becoming a lie." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "I want you to tell me what you're lying to yourself about, because your habits define who you are." And I was like, "What?" So I looked at the list, and at this time, I want you to know, I was not healthy. I was taking care of everyone else. I was pouring from an empty cup. I think a lot of people can relate to that. And one of the number one things that I had on the list was that I was athletic. And I'm like, what habits do I have of an athlete right now? And I was like, I don't have any. I mean, really, I was 300 pounds. There wasn't a whole lot of athletic ability happening. And then I put in there that I was healthy. Well, because I was doing healthy things with healthy people all day long. But my own personal habits, I started to look at it, and I'm like, I'm not eating the way a healthy person eats. I'm not thinking the way a healthy person thinks. I'm not doing healthy things. So I am lying to myself. I'm not a healthy person. And so going through that list and me deciding, all right, I set a new goal. Who do I want to be? And now what habits need to change and align with this new version? And when that happened, my whole life changed.
Of course.
And now that's what I go and help anyone that is willing to sit down and stop lying to themselves, because that's really truly the number one thing, is to start with the truth.
Absolutely. And Phil, I'm sure you can connect to that, right?
Yeah, I love what you looked at yourself honestly, and you said, hey, that is my external result. My external result is not who I am. That happens to be a result. What I am inside of me, I have to create the habit. There's a framework to do this. And one of the things that we can be aware of is that so many things we know what to do, yet we don't do it. And we know we should eat healthily, we should exercise. Do we do this? And the same thing when it comes to a goal, we know these actions are going to move us forward. Do we do those? And what would it take for us to do that? Discipline. Discipline is one of the strong tools to keep us aligned and to keep on cool minds. So this way, when the universe is testing us, the world is throwing all these different obstacles, we stay focused and we stay to the path, and we're aligned. That's the habit that of exercising and getting out there. We do it no matter what. We don't compromise. We don't let that external thing stop us from what we want to do. Yeah.
It just brings to mind because you were talking about healthy, right? Eating healthy, and it's like that midnight snack, right? It's not healthy for you. Like it's past midnight. You should not be eating anything past midnight, but we do it. And
Right.
it's the knowing and doing gap, the way Bob helped, our lead mentor says, there's a knowing and doing, and there's a gap in between there. So what's that gap is what we need to work on, because we know it's not good for us, but we're doing it anyway. So we don't have the discipline, obviously, but there's something that's leading us to do something that we know we should not do. And that is the belief or the habit, that program that we have in, oh, this is sweet, this is a nice sweet snack, we should have it. But we build a habit of that midnight snack, and we need to learn how to transform that habit and replace it with a healthy habit, right? I remember, and I guess we all know there's two ways, or Phil, you and I know because we did our training, but there's two ways that we, break a habit, right? It's an emotional impact, or through repetition of building a new habit, right? So
Yeah, the
And if
auto
you
suggestion
compare
is
the
so
two-
powerful.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and if you compare those two together, you're bound to win, right? I mean, my biggest habit that I broke was I became, I know this is always something that I'm like now embarrassed about. It's interesting that it brings that emotion out, but I had started to smoke. And when I made that list, I was like, I'm not a smoker. But I'm smoking. Like if someone asked me if I was a smoker, I'd be like, no, I don't smoke. I mean, occasionally, but like I wouldn't call myself a smoker. And so when I redefined that and held myself accountable to my new definition, right? That's an emotional response. But the habit of it was like, the moment I would even have the craving to grab it, it was like, I'm not a smoker. That definition was, I didn't want to change who I was. I didn't want to change the definition back, the habit. I wanted a new one. So I did what you just said. I replaced it with water. And it was like anytime that I would have that, I had to drink a whole bottle of water. Like, I'm just going to go drink a whole bottle of water to get rid of it. And it gave me enough time to break through that emotional piece. So it certainly works.
Well, I will share with you, I'm an ex-smoker myself, and the way I broke the habit, it was like, and I tried quitting so many times, always failed, because I had the belief that the cigarette would give me energy, would lower my stress, would keep my cravings away, right? I had all these beliefs about what the cigarette was doing for me. That was the healthy part, which truthfully there was nothing healthy about it. But when I got told that I have cancer, let me tell you, that wasn't an emotional impact. To put that cigarette down and never pick it up again, because that's exactly what happened. So yeah, when something truly becomes, emotional, that you are, whatever habit that you're trying to break, that there's an emotional meaning behind it, becomes even harder to break and create a new habit. And Phil?
Yeah, I this is exactly what I was able to follow, this type of creating new habit with during the pandemic. I released 38 pounds, and by exercising, and I always knew that I should eat low glycemic, half the plate be vegetables. yet I like a cheeseburger, I like a pizza. And probably the truth is in moderation, anything is okay. It's just a matter of how do I do it and how do I keep it disciplined? And then our body will heal itself if given the right environment. And so long as we keep the thoughts in our, we have this wonderful elimination system that will eliminate the things that don't serve us well. And can we release that? It takes a habit though, and it takes a focus. Focus is a skill that we can learn if we don't already have it, and being focused and disciplined will bring that habit to form. And it's so hard to create, to just release an old habit that's bad for us. Yet if we create the new habit and we focus on that new habit only, that new habit soon is the one who's now in the front seat driving this car, and the older habits can be kicked to the back, and we don't pay attention to that old habit. It may not disappear, it may show up, but we can always say, hey, you don't serve me anymore, in a way that we could symbolically move away from those older habits.
Absolutely. And Bob says the paradigms, right, are multitude of habits. And in order to see change, you pick one habit at a time. Not try to do so many, because that's what happens too. It's like people who want to see a certain, something change. They pick something. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. They pick so many different things that they want to change, but it's impossible to do so many at once. So I definitely agree that changing, one habit at a time will slowly add up to that goal that you want, right? And get closer to that goal you want. I think there's something I've heard. I think it's in the book, Good Habits, that you take just one little habit at a time that end up, you pile them up, and then at the end, you have this big new person, this new person that just for all these little habits that you've changed. We're going to take a short break without commercial sponsor, and we'll be right back. Okay, so let's talk about the benefits of self-discipline. I know that once we make a decision, a definite decision, and there's no going back, right? We then know we have work to do, and in order to be committed, like you said, Phil, it's not just a wish, it's a burning desire to say, that's it, I'm going to do this. And for example, I know when I was working in corporate America, I had a burning desire to change over to go into education. And it was like, once I made that decision, I opened up the doors to the possibilities of getting where I wanted to go. But everything starts with a decision and a burning desire. Phil, can you talk about that? Because I know you and I, study this all the time, right?
Oh yeah, and that's one of the ways to develop the habit of study. The thing is that when we take an action and we do something, it's repetitive. That's we're working on this little rascal that's inside of our mind. We do have to daily study, so we do study into how the principles just work, and to have that burning desire, it's a starting point. We have to have that clarity, and just building that discipline of, this is who I am, and who I am is that goal, that direction, whether it's your health or any of the 12 riches. It could be the labor of love. It could be in business. It could be your relationships. It could be being more open-minded to concepts. And who you are inside is what's going to be attracted to you, and the resources, the people, and the community. So it really just takes that discipline and focus only on the thoughts of what we want. And that's where the hard effort, I always say hard work and the effort is focusing on the thoughts that we want and eliminating or not paying attention to the thoughts we don't want. That's where the hard work of any accomplishment, I believe.
Totally agree. And Dr. Pesco, I know, we mentioned before, everything starts with a thought, right? A thought becomes a thing. And when we're looking at, the end goal, sometimes we get so overwhelmed with the thoughts that come to mind and how to achieve. Like we're so concerned about the how that we create our own obstacles, right? We create the illusions of I can't do this. This is impossible. And I know Dr. Wayne Dyer, he's another favorite of mine, and a spiritual teacher, and he goes, we become what we think about. Our thoughts create our reality, and we must believe that. It's not something that we get taught in school, but it's very, very true, because when you set yourself up to say, I can't do this, you're literally blocking all ideas to help you achieve your goal. Like, you're setting the tone with the language you use. And really, you become the cause of the effect, right? So yeah, can you share your thoughts on that?
So many times when we start out on, we're gonna, right now you may be listening and you're like, okay, that's it, I'm all in. I'm throwing my heart over the fence and I'm gonna go after this. I'm gonna achieve this goal. And we go out with a huge burst, and it goes back to that all or nothing mentality. And something that I found that I became aware of what I did in that all or nothing, because I was one of those all or nothing. I was going to go as hard as I could. And then when as hard as I could was no longer fun, or it was giving me some struggles, I didn't just back off or back down, or I like to say drop a gear. I stopped. I just put on the brake, like eating, like, okay, I'm going to be clean eating. I'm going to eat all this. I'm going to do all of this. And they do it all day long. And then they have a bite of pizza and they're like, I'll just start next Monday again. And it's like, what? Well, chew the bite of pizza, enjoy the bite of pizza, enjoy the piece of pizza, enjoy it if you're going to eat it. And then the next food choice you make, let's get back on it. And so it's so I call it the fork in the road. And we tend to think that we just get a pause in life. Like you're running after that goal and you're going, and it gets a little bit uncomfortable. And we're like, I'm just going to pause. I'm not stopping. I'm not quitting. I'm just going to pause. This is something you're either moving towards that goal or further away from it. There is no such thing as a pause.
Absolutely. And again, that's if you're disciplined, you're not pausing.
Right.
If you're disciplined and you got your eye on the goal,
yep,
and you are committed to the change of who you're going to become, you really
stay in motion.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's one of I find that's one of the real laws of nature, really, and physics and science, is that everything is either growing or it's dying.
Yep.
And 1% growth every day, that's 365%.
Right?
At the end
Isn't
of the
it
year,
awesome?
1%. And 1% might not seem a lot in this moment, yet it's like that example you probably heard. Would you rather have $1 million, or would you have a penny and it'll only double itself for 30 days? Well,
right.
Momentum is the key to all of that. And then how those exponential changes can happen by 1% compounded.
compound effect. We all like the compound effect when it's towards our goal, but we like to ignore the fact that it also works when we're not. Our negative and our not setting habits are habits. Habits are habits. They're either good habits or they're bad habits. And the bad habits compound just as much as the good ones do. We just get to make a choice which one we choose.
Absolutely. So this brings me to talking about the mental health and overall well-being, right? To be disciplined, because truly our body is a manifestation of what's in our mind, right? And when we have self-discipline, we're actually controlling the thoughts that come to mind. We're in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have, I think, according to research, something like 60,000 thoughts a day. So it's like, which one do we want to feed? You know, again, aligning with what you were saying, Crystal. It doesn't matter whether they're negative or positive. The one that you feed the most is what's going to really affect our mental health and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It can kill our goals, our dreams, because these thoughts truly have power. And it's being self-disciplined that you have power over the thoughts. And we do. We do. I know there's times when I feel stressed out, and I take my AirPods and I put the music as loud as I can to get that beat and vibration from a song to get me out of that, stressful thought or thoughts that are in my mind, right? Because again, it can really take us down a path that we don't want to be in. So. Yeah, definitely. I know you deal with a lot of patients, right? They come to your office with I'm sure, more negative thoughts than positive thoughts.
Yeah, well, for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been helping people with, we talk about bad and negative thoughts. I work with people with hormones and balancing them and losing weight and getting their health and wellness back on track. And so that starts with how we think, just like you said, your thoughts are your body. And so if that's the case, like that's the first place they have to start. In fact, for a very long time, the very first thing that I had them do was write out 10 affirmations a day. And they would say those 10 affirmations for 7 days. And they started their day. They put it in their phone at noon. They heard it. They said them again at night. And so not just saying them, not just reading them, but actually feeling. What does that feel like when you are saying that, when you're thinking it? Does it feel like you're lying? Because if you are, we need to address why you feel like you're doing that. Because those it's almost like a movie reel that's going on in the background of your brain. There might be positive things coming out of your mind, but if you've got this negative movie reel working back here in the back, like we need to get to that. And as soon as we can get that in alignment and we can get their thoughts working for them, like anything that I explain for them to do, it's like, I can do that. I can do that. Whereas in the beginning, they were like, oh, there's no way I could do that. And it's like, well, just saying can't right there is your first.
Absolutely. Right.
It's not the positive thinking. It's not going to work for you. So
Henry Ford says, if you think you can, if you think you can, you're right.
Yeah.
But Bill, I know we talk about autosuggestion, right? And implanting those same affirmations of really like who you want to become, right?
Yeah.
Because let's talk about that.
Definitely, it's the subconscious is such a fertile planting ground, and the thoughts, if you can imagine them as a seed, whatever the seed is that we plant is going to come harvest, whatever that is. And holding the idea of what we want, being self-disciplined on that, and the habit set. Well, what does this person, if I, it's almost as if we have to go to this city. Here's a residential place. We're feeling the goal. We're seeing the goal. We're living in it. Is already achieved. Neville Goddard talks about that in Power of Awareness as well. But Neville, and also Napoleon Hill writes a auto-suggestions chapter, one of the principles. We have to tell ourselves the things that we want, and we have to have that positive mental attitude to keep ourselves in our mind, in our subconscious emotional mind, in the body, following in line, and just following the things we want. I just, like, I love the example that we saw, Dan Matthews was talking about attitude and riches, and how a plane, if you imagine this is a wing of a plane, it's either going to be leaning to the right or the left, and whichever way it goes, if it goes right, the thing we want, that's our direction. If it goes left, well, what we don't want, that's what we're going to attract to us. We're going to find ourselves in situations with people that are not where we want to be, and we've got to be disciplined on keeping the focus and on that goal and the habits, and writing that person as if it's already done, and being that person. It's like a movie, you're the writer, director, actor, and you're in it. You're not watching it from the sidelines. We get this one shot in this physical life. We have to be in the movie, the star of our own movie.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We talk about persistence is really, I'll bring this question up. Persistence is really about no matter what's in front of you. You don't go. And the outside world will tell you why you can't achieve this goal, or all the obstacles, and nobody did it. We take the Wright brothers. We take oh my goodness, I'm losing his name. We invented the light bulb. Edison. Who said, who tried 10,000 times. And he didn't look at them as failures. He just looked at them as closer to getting where he needed to be. He said the 10,000 times were not failures, but oh my goodness, what am I looking for? Not failures, but successes to get to his goal. Mm-hmm. The way he said it, and again, it's never giving up. It's persevere. And when you're staying focused to your goal, it's your goal. So therefore, it's very, very important that you don't let the outside get in to your mind about achieving your goal. And that is persistent. Whether you have a setback, whether somebody is no, somebody is saying it's impossible, because the only thing that really matters is what you say to yourself, right? Like Bill, you said, you are the actor, the director, you're writing the script, you're everything to achieve your goal. So you get to say yes.
Yeah, I love what you're talking about that too. In the word impossible is I'm possible, and you say I am possible, and the truth is somebody else's opinion doesn't matter. It's where you want to be. And I love the chapter in persistence as one of the key principles. That's something that comes naturally for me. I never stop. I always will find the way to do it, and I might not have the path that gets me there the fastest, yet I'm going to keep on going. There's lots of different stories how people have used persistence to keep on going. Jack Canfield once had an example of a man who, and I forget his name, in Australia. There was this race that they would take 9 days to go race across. And so the runners would start in the morning, they'd go in the evening, they'd stop, they'd rest, and they picked up the next day. Kind of like the Tour de France for bikes. Well, this one man didn't know that they would stop and rest. So he was walking in work boots, and he just kept on going. And while everybody else was sleeping, he kept on walking. He kept on going. He won the race by walking with these elite runners. That's persistence personified. And I love, it's interesting how Andrew Carnegie was the mentor to Napoleon Hill, because the principle of the persistence, it's the idea that with a human personality, to have persistence is like carbon is to steel. It just is something that with persistence, you're going to get there, and you get that strong foundation, and there's no going back once you stay with it.
Right. Well, you're fused to the goal, right? When you're fused to the goal,
Yeah.
no matter what obstacle comes your way, you're gonna figure out how to overcome that obstacle, because having the the willpower keeps you going, right? It opens up that faith that you're gonna make it no matter what, right? And yeah, that's getting into persistence, of course. Dr. Crystal, you want to speak on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, you think about, you set this goal and you set out on it and you're doing the work and you've got a lot of time invested. You've mapped it out. You're on your way. And there's only really one thing that stops us. And think about this. A second guess. Second guessing. You spent all this time and all this effort, and you're going to make a decision off of a guess. And so that is something that, like, no guessing. Like, make your path, get on it, and just keep taking steps. One, you have to start. A simple start. Get started on it. And then one step after another. Can you imagine that gentleman as he's walking, one step after another? He's just going, like, because usually you compare, you monitor with the other people around you. Think of all those guys, that were running. They've got people that they're doing it alongside of, and they're using them as motivation. This man set out by himself. If he's walking it, he doesn't have anyone there. He literally had to put one foot in front of the other, and his mind willed him across the finish line. No other outside sources. And if we could all just encapsulate that and have that mindset, there's not one thing that we would not achieve, because we at no point would second guess.
We're going to come back to a short break, and come back and talk about the 10 rules that Napoleon Hill talks about for profitable self-discipline.
Now, the vast majority, approximately 95% of the people of all countries, go around and around without aim or purpose. They drift with the circumstances of life, good or bad.
A drifter is one who permits himself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind.
Whereas the successful individuals create their own circumstances and ride them to victory.
When you're on purpose, you're living on purpose. You will never quit if you have a real purpose.
A burning desire to be and to do is the starting point from which the dreamer must take off. But what I have done has been recorded, it's been tested, it's being taken to a free world, and it's going to benefit millions of people who are not yet born.
And it's going to benefit millions of people who are not yet born. We're some of those people. That we're spreading this to the world. As your awareness grows, the doubt is gone, so that you can manifest whatever it is your heart desires. Isn't that beautiful?
I love that show because it's so true how we can become drifters if there's no goal, right? And having a goal keeps you on track to really find your purpose in life. And when you find that purpose, this is where you bring joy into your life, because now you became the best version of you. And I want to talk about Napoleon Hill lays out 10 rules for profitable self-discipline. So Bill, I'm going to give that to you. Let's go down and just talk about the 10 secrets.
Yes, and secrets worth sharing.
Absolutely.
These are such powerful gifts, really it is. So 10 rules that Napoleon Hill talks about is that keep cool when other people get hot. And have you been in a situation before, and instead of de-escalating, people just add fuel to the fire, and then they try to take, their ego gets in the way. And when we can really look at what's going on around us and keep calm and understand that the person is operating from their level of awareness. In the ad that just played before here, it's the level of awareness, and that's where the key is. And we're all doing the best we can from our level of awareness. And if their awareness is not on the same frequency as ours, well, we're coming from different points of view. And take a moment to understand that person's point of view. It wouldn't hurt. And then understand, here's the objective, like Napoleon, the other Napoleon Bonaparte in France. I don't see the obstacles in my way. I just see my objective, and find ways together to work on that. And then the second point is that there are multiple sides. You might have heard this before, where I don't like the idea because words are important. So I'll just say we have my story, which comes from my perspective and awareness. There's the other person's perspective and awareness. And then there's somewhere in between those 2 points that may accurately depict what's really happening. And so how do we creatively take a position where, let's look at this neutral position and see how we can together collaborate instead of competing egos against each other to get to that point of view. Then we don't want to give directives or give orders while we are angry, because things can happen. Our emotions are there, and the emotional response, if we have emotional intelligence, it won't be as violent or as impactful, but the emotion has to be expressed in some way. So if you have to go in a car, scream, yell, okay, get it out of your system and come back with calmer mind and keeping calm, talk about it in a way. So whether it's in work, if it's in our health, if it's in our relationships, take a pause, cool down, meditate. If people meditate, that's a powerful tool to use. Tap into the power of intuition, where infinite intelligence can come to us and we can find a solution to it. We want to treat all people, the next one of number 4, treat all people as if they were the rich relatives you expect to be remembered in their will. In other words, treat them as the gifts that they have to offer. Everybody has gifts. Each person here, no exceptions, has the gift. Embrace those gifts for who they are. And if we come to the intention of wanting to leave you better, work to understand that perspective. That it's not always about trying to tear somebody down. It's about coming from a perspective that is different. And we have blind sides. Be aware that we won't see everything about us, and we might not even notice our gifts. But if we can notice somebody else's gifts and bring those together, that will help to keep self-discipline going towards the goal. Number 5 is look for the seed of an equivalent benefit in every unpleasant situation. You could say adversity has those seeds of its equivalent opposite. I like a story how Bob Proctor, who I've studied with, he wrote a book, You Were Born Rich. And when he was going to the publishers in New York, now, when you had to put a book together, you had to have a typewriter, just like Napoleon Hill did. There weren't computers, and you had to type a page. I remember in college, we were doing a report. If you got just one word wrong, you had to rip out that sheet and start over again. Keep that in mind as I'm talking about this story. So they went to New York. It was a rainy day. Bob and his wife got out of the taxi cab, and he get his coat on, helping his wife with her coat, and the door of the cab closes and off it goes. And Bob starts laughing hysterically. And his wife says, "What are you laughing at?" He says, "My manuscript. It's in the cab." She says, "What?" Can you imagine? He had to type this by hand. And here is this manuscript. It goes down into New York. Yellow cabs are everywhere. And he's laughing. He says, "Because I know, as bad as that is, there's a seed of something greater." Now, probably he did some edits that worked out better for him. Maybe he added a story or another concept. We don't know. He would know. Bob would know. And so look for the adversity. Through the adversity, look for the seeds of what it is. It's like, are we going to acknowledge that side of the coin that shows us what we don't want? With the law of opposites, we could look at the opposite side and recognize that and keep
There's
it.
always a lesson, right? When we have adversity, we always have to take away a lesson from that.
Absolutely. And then the 6th point was learn the forgotten art of asking questions. We can always say, is this true? Does this benefit somebody for me to know this information? In what is the good behind of that? Just ask the questions. Is this true? And is it really helping our cause, or is it putting us onto a different path? Is it causing confusion and chaos? If it's not bringing clarity, then we can ask questions about that. And there's a principle that Napoleon Hill gets into on accurate thinking, but that's another chapter and another point. The next 7th point would be never say or do anything that can influence another person without first asking yourself if it's going to help or hurt somebody. Be thinking about, what does something do? Is it going to harm somebody?
Yes.
Is it willful? Is it intentional? It could be not intentional. These things can happen. But then again, we'll have to look at perspective and understand someone else's perspective when it does happen. But if we're aware that this will not serve all together to the highest good, and that's part of the self-confidence formula as well. We want to just leave the highest and best good for all parties, and I won't engage in any interaction that doesn't really give the best of everybody involved. The 8th point is learn the difference between friendly analysis and unfriendly criticism. This would be where we can have constructive criticism. Our blind spots could be exposed, and if somebody has a way to help us, welcome that. And the difference between being a critic versus being constructive, it's going to lie in the intent of the person. They always say those who cannot do will criticize. And
that's right.
Napoleon Hill had a lot of critics, and because they have their own agenda that they wanted to follow, or because they didn't want to make any changes, so they will look for reasons why things won't work. So the idea of learn that friendly analysis or criticism. And then the 9th point is remember that being a good leader, being an exceptional follower, is essential to become an exceptional leader. If you can't be a good follower, we can't be a good leader. But then again, if you're only a good follower, you can only be a good leader. When you're an exceptional follower, you'll become an exceptional leader. And that has shown itself through so many situations. And the last point, the 10th, would be, last but not least, remember that tolerance in human relations is important. Tolerance being the person has their own unique, diverse perspective in life. We have different cultures, we have different ethnicities, we have different beliefs. We're believing in either something that isn't what I believe in, or it's believing what I can believe in. It could be religious, it could be non-religious, but we're always believing in something. Believing is the fuel that gets us to faith, and faith is the emotion that the fact that it's done, not always in a religious sense, but by being tolerant. And Napoleon Hill wrote an essay on tolerance as well, because as we come through this physical life, where the spirit, the energy of who we are, is all one, and it will be together. And the cause and effect what we put out as our cause will come back to us in one way, shape, or form, and in effect, and let's all let it be good.
Thank you.
The biggest auto-suggestion I read in Andrew Carnegie's house, it was so powerful. The highest form of worship is service to mankind. And that was a huge auto-suggestion of all around his wall. It was such a magical place to be. And when he got a chance to bring the book Think and Grow Rich back to the place where it all started.
I think we're all in alignment with the fact that service is the greatest rewarding service, the greatest satisfaction, and we can give to each other. And with that, we're gonna Dr. Crystal would like to say some words.
I sit here, love hearing everything you just shared, Phil. I have grown up reading, being a student, and something of the things that you said, something that the most stand out to me is the most exceptional student or the exceptional follower becomes the most exceptional. I'm like, oh my gosh, my leader. My brain just, I was like, teacher. I got student, teacher, and leader. And I guess that's, really, truly, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And so when you said that, my brain was just like, that is it. One of the things that it has been ingrained in me is when you learn to teach. And so when you follow, learn to lead. And if we can do that, what a difference the experience becomes.
Well, so I want to thank you both. Take this down to landing. I appreciate you immensely. I think we provided a lot of good tips to the audience about self-discipline and the importance of it. And always keep focused on that results, and we will persevere. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And we will see you next week.
Thank you, Giovanna, for inviting us, and thank you for allowing me to be with you, Dr. Crystal.
It was a wonderful time. Thanks all.
Thank you for joining me on Sparking Change with Gigi. I hope that our episode today has ignited a spark within you to create positive change in your own life and in the world around you. To learn more about how you can become a guest or supporter, head over to sparkingchangenow.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to me, and it helps me to continue producing content that sparks change in each of us and the world. You can find us on various platforms, including Google Play Store, Apple App Store, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you again for watching, and I look forward to having you join me again next week on Sparking Change with Gigi.